All right, can't spell the sweat without...
Wee!
Jessie, Coffield, Emerson, Lotzia, thanks for wrapping up another miserable Monday with wee. So what's on the menu tonight, young lady, please?
Well, we got DK Sportsbook edition of NBA Over-Under and MLB Chaser Fade. Plus, we're going to put a fantasy spin on some of the recent headlines being made around the NFL.
We've got some
football.
golf sprinkled in there as well, a little Salt Bay, but batting leadoff is DK Live's Julian Edlow, Greg Ehrenberg, and Pierce Dietrich. Tonight's baseball panel. Price Check is where it's at. Looking for the best value here. Follow me. Starting with Patrick Corbin, who's the only pitcher on the slate listed at more than $10,000. Jules, is he worth it against the Mets, or are you going somewhere else?
I think he is worth it against the Mets. You look at this slate, there's not that many great spots for pitchers. It's just such a good spot when you look at how bad the Mets have been lately. 3 hits in their last 2 games against the Marlins, who are absolutely terrible. The Mets have been coming completely undone as a lineup. So obviously Corbin is going to be very chalky pitching in New York here. But in terms of cash lineups, or if you just want to staple him into a GPP and differentiate yourself with a cheaper pitcher or, you know, a lower owned stack, I think that would be fine. But you look at Corbin, 39 DK points in his last start, a 5-1 victory over the Mets. And these should be, in theory, better conditions for him in terms of ballpark. And the Mets lineup is just not looking too good right now. So I think Corbin's an easy guy to lock into your lineup tonight.
Greg, you building around this guy?
Yeah, so I think Corbin's fine, but I'd rather save a little bit of money and go down to Chris Paddock. There's a pretty big price differential between them, and Paddock's been really good so far in his rookie year. A 1.93 ERA, striking out 9.7 hitters per 9 innings. And then something else that leans me a little bit towards Paddock over Corbin. Paddock's at home, Corbin's on the road. Pretty decent matchups for both of them, but I'll save the money with Paddock.
Pierce, considering his track record against the Mets this season, this feels like a can't-miss spot for Corbin.
Well, we can never say can't miss, but I have no problem going with the chalk here. I'll find somewhere else to differentiate with my lineups. And I don't want to overreact to one series where the Mets played really bad to the Marlins, but the Mets just have not been good. Second most strikeouts against left-handed pitching, 153 ISO against left-handed pitching. And you just can't seem to find any problems with Corbin's game. And as Greg mentioned here, I think other people are starting to go in other directions. You're going to see Soroka getting a little bit more ownership, Weaver going ownership. I think Corbin should be clearly the guy to go to. But I think his ownership is dropping down a little bit, which makes me want to take him.
All right, guys, with George Springer unavailable due to back problems, there are 4 hitters priced over $5,500. You got Joey Gallo, Astros teammates Michael Brantley and Alex Bregman, and then Mike Trout. So, Greg, if you're going to spend up on a bat, who's in the best spot?
Yeah, so usually I just default to Mike Trout, whether it's him against any other hitter. But he's a fairly difficult matchup tonight against Jake Odorizzi. He's done pretty well against right-handed batters this year. He's allowing a 218 WOBA to righties. In the past, Odorizzi was kind of a reverse splits pitcher, but it hasn't been the case so far this season. So I think the guy who's in the best spot is actually Joey Gallo, hitting for the Rangers at home, highest team total on the slate. And then also, if we look at Gallo against Mike Leake, Leake's a little bit of a different pitcher this year than he's been in previous years. He used to be a pretty high ground ball pitcher. Now he's allowing a little bit more fly balls, and in addition to that, allowing more home runs per fly ball. So factor in that he's going to be pitching in Texas. I think this could be a lot of home runs coming for the Rangers, and Joey Gallo usually figures to be in that mix.
Pierce, which hitter over $5,500 looks good to you tonight?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Gallo as well. Mike Leake, 1.83 home runs per 9, and obviously Gallo is the home run guy. Leake has been getting older every year and getting much worse, as they normally do. He's given up his highest hard hit contact, his highest xWOBA of his career. Makes sense. And as you get older, your fastball starts to stink. And his fastball this year against left-handed batters is almost 700. Now, it's a very small sample size, but we would expect his fastball would struggle against left-handed bats. And on the other side, against right-handed pitching, Gallo is just crushing fastballs, 550 xWOBA. He's striking out less than he ever has. And like Greg mentioned, Leake is a contact guy. Now, he usually gives up more ground balls, but still, he's not a strikeout guy. That means he's going to live in the zone. He's not going to strike out the batter, and that's really Gallo's weakness. So I love pitchers throwing strikes to Gallo because he hits them for home runs.
Jules, you want to make it 3 for 3?
Yeah, I'm going to make it a consensus. The Rangers average over 6 runs per game at home. They're projected for another 6 in this one. Mike Leake, although he's been good in the month of May, He got hit really hard by this Rangers lineup early in the season, a game that the Rangers wound up scoring 15 runs in. Gallo's at home, opposite hand matchup, hitting fifth. It all sets up really well for him for all the reasons that these guys mentioned. But I will say, if all the ownership is going to go towards Gallo and we're going to go 3 for 3 here, I really don't mind taking, Bregman, Brantley, both at home for Houston, where they average 6 runs per game, against a White Sox bullpen game. That's a really good spot. So if I think I'm going to get much lower ownership there, I don't mind doing that at all.
All right, if you're spending up for a bat, something tells me you'll need some value.
That makes sense.
So who do you like from the bargain bin in terms of a hitter, Mr. Dietrich?
So I'm going to get a little cute here, but I think you have to. If you're going to play Corbin and you're going to stack Rangers, then you've got to differentiate somewhere. So I'm going to take Pedro Severino, go way off the grid. And J.A. Happ has struggled against right-handed bats this year, a FIP of 5, 40% hard contact, 50% fly ball rate, over 2 home runs per 9. And then you look at Severino, again, small sample size, but he's crushing lefties, over 400 WOBA, almost a 400 ISO. Again, you don't expect him to do that throughout his whole season. But if you look at his career, it's not much to look at because he is a young guy, but he has hit lefties better than he has righties over his career. So if I want to go a little bit cheap, get low ownership, I'm going to go with Severino.
Jules, need some offensive value on tonight's 8-game slate.
Yeah, Kendrys Morales, $3,400, hitting 5th for the Yankees in Baltimore here. He's going up against Andrew Cashner. Yes, I'm going BVP here, 7 for 14 against him with 3 home runs. Obviously, Morales is kind of in the tail end of his career here, not the hitter he once was, but it's a great ballpark for hitters. The Yankees are projected for about 5.5 runs here against Cashner. And you look at the rest of the bats in that Yankee lineup, they're all very expensive. To be able to get the 5-hitter for $3,400 in a good spot here, I think it's a really great bargain. Okay,
Greg, need a bargain from you. How about it?
Yeah, so I have Morales in my notes also. Not too much to add on to what Julian said, but Morales kind of a guy like Pierce said earlier. He's somebody, he gets older every year. It's one of those crazy things. But if you look at this weird thing with the Yankees this year, for some reason it seems any replacement level player who gets thrown into the middle of the Yankees lineup becomes like an all of a sudden all-star this season. And Kendrys Morales did not play well with the A's. That's why they ended up letting go with him. But he's hit fairly well in the 3 games with the Yankees. It's a plus matchup against Cashner, who's not been good this year. So I think there's a lot of reason to like Morales in the middle of the Yankees lineup.
All right, guys. Julian, you're free to go for the night. Pierce and Greg, please stick around because we're going to chase or fade some of the odds for tonight's MLB games coming up.
But first, Reed T. Fowler has something to get off his hairy Hawaiian chest.
How's it, golf fans? Reed Fowler in the DK Live studios for our next course preview, the Charles Schwab Challenge at Colonial Country Club, located in Fort Worth, Texas. Another year at Colonial will continue one of the longest streaks a golf course has been played on the PGA, with this week being its 74th time hosting a tournament, second only to Augusta National. Colonial will be a par 70 measure over 7,200 yards and will play much easier than last week, but will still be a decent test of golf, ranking inside the top 20 in difficulty last season, with the scoring average just under even par. The field will not be as strong as last week, obviously, but still packs a punch. We'll have studs like Ricky Fowler, Xander, John Rahm, and Paul Casey, joining some rising stars like Benny Ann, Sanjay M, and Max Homa, all chasing Justin Rose, who averages 65 over his 4 rounds, besting the major slayer Brooks Koepka by 3 strokes last season. Colonial has played host to a myriad of different sponsors. Over the last decade, it's been formerly known as the Crown Plaza, the Dean and DeLuca Invitational, and most recently the Fort Worth Invitational. Even though it bears a new name, it will again be played on bentgrass greens, as it has been since 2012, and their fairways will be heavily tree-lined, putting a premium on shot makers who can place it in the right spots off the tee. Yes, putting it in the fairway is advantageous almost every week, but it won't be as important as it was at Bethpage. Getting your tee shot with the correct angles into these greens will be priority number 1. Some key stats at Colonial will be strokes gained approach, birdie or better gained, as well as opportunities gained, and with a top 30 last week at Bethpage, Paul Casey will be my favorite this week, even though he couldn't make a putt to save his life. Casey was elite tee to green and strong with his approach, and if we look over the last 24 rounds, he ranks top 10 in both strokes gained approach and birdie or better gained, as well as 3rd in opportunities gained.
Our boy Reed at it again with the course previews. So proud, right?
Yes, we are. We're like a proud father and mother.
Okay, let's transition into NBA playoff talk with senior columnist of the Shadow League, Karin Phillips, and the Action Network's Matt LaMarca.
Over-under is on the docket. It's game 4, and the pressure is mounting. So will the following players go over or under these projected lines in tonight's Warriors-Blazers game? Steph Curry has gone for 36, 37, and 36 points in the first 3 games of this series. So you're obviously going with the over 32.5 points for minus 109, right, Karn?
Correct. Because even if Steph does have an off night and he doesn't make 3 free throws or misses 3, he still be hanging around the over. And there's nothing we've seen so far from him, anybody on their roster or the Golden State Warriors. It looks like they're going to slow down anytime soon. But besides that, like, you have to look at this game and think about the stakes that are on here for the Warriors. Like, Kawhi may be dinged up a little bit. Let Milwaukee in that series, let that battle as long as you can, because if you're the Warriors, you want to get this done over in 4, and you want to get everybody rested up and healthy and see if you can possibly get Kevin Durant and DeMarcus Cousins back for the finals. So get this over tonight. Expect big game from Steph.
Matt, can you make an argument for going with the under?
I mean, I could try, but I really don't want to.
You don't have to. It was a simple yes or no question, Matt.
Okay, sorry. I'm not overthinking this one. Give me the over. If you look at Steph Curry with Durant and Cousins off the court, since Cousins rejoined the rotation, he's got a usage rate of 39.8%. He's averaging 37 points per 36 minutes. So they're back to playing like the old Warriors without Durant and Cousins, and that means that Steph Curry is going to be the focal point of their offense. There's a reason this man won back-to-back MVP trophies before Kevin Durant came to town. Teams in closeout situations have also historically been able to take care of business. 34, 25, and 3 against the spread since 2005. And like Karen said, I think this team, not even just for rest purposes, but certainly Draymond Green at a minimum is just motivated to show people that this team really does not need Kevin Durant to win. I think that narrative that the Warriors are better without him is overblown. But remember, this team won 73 games before that man showed up. Like, this is still a very talented team. And Steph Curry is obviously the biggest part of that. So I think over 32.5 for sure.
Okay, well, CJ McCollum had a team-high 23 points in Game 3. So going off of his recent form, Matt, are you in on a minus 104 for under 24.5 in Game 4?
Yeah, I like the under on this one too. It's close, though. I mean, if you look at McCollum, the Warriors' defensive focus in this series has basically been trying to eliminate Damian Lillard, and they've done a really good job at that. But even with that in mind, McCollum still has not cracked 24.5 points in any of the first 3 games. If you look at his matchup data against his primary defenders for the Warriors, he's underperforming his per 100 scoring average against all of them. Even Steph Curry has managed to hold him below his per 100 scoring average. And then if Klay Thompson or Andre Iguodala have been on him, they've managed to virtually shut him down. So, being that I'm banking on the Warriors to get the win tonight, I like the McCollum under here.
Karn, any chance you're going over here?
Oh, I'm definitely going over.
Ooh.
This has nothing to do with the fact that CJ hasn't cracked 24 points or the fact that, Steve Kerr has figured out how to shut down Dame Lillard and we got the information about his fractured rib and all that. This is all about Jennifer, okay? CJ McCollum needs to have a big game because of Jennifer, because a couple of years on Twitter when he told her, we're trying to win a series, he's going to try really, really hard to win tonight. They're not going to win. They're going to lose, but I expect a big game out of CJ. It's just going to be one of those. He played really well, but his team sucked, and so they went home earlier. Sorry, Jennifer.
They finally got to meet the other
thing where we after a team is getting walloped, all of a sudden an injury comes out. That's got to be my least favorite trend in basketball right now.
But it wasn't from him. It was from everyone else, which
sure
is
what I
expected about that.
But I'm just saying, remember LeBron showed up at his post game. He's got the cast on, and every time the Warriors lose, it's because Steph Curry is battling injuries.
It's a cop out. It seems like weird timing.
Yes, 100%. I think it's fishy. I'm a little bit of a conspiracy guy, but I think that's fishy.
Love a good.
The common man does it too. I just crushed Reed T. Fowler on the golf course a couple weekends ago. Now he's saying he's injured. So, anywho,
yeah,
we'll
golf.
move on.
That's really
right.
physical. Getting out
You guys
there.
know Reed. Excuse machine.
Really physical stuff golf is.
Anyway, Draymond Green was the only player with double-digit rebounds in Game 3. So do you like plus 115 for over 10.5 boards, Karn?
Yes, because we know if there's anybody on that roster tonight who is a point prover, who is trying to remind everyone how good he is or how important he is to this team and their culture and what they're trying to do by going for a three-peat and how good they will need to be in the next series, is Draymond Green. So I expect another big game from him, probably another triple-double, somewhere probably around like 14, 13, 11, a stat stuffer. So I easily taking Draymond with over 10.5 tonight.
All right, Matt, Karn expects a big performance out of Draymond. What do you expect?
Yeah, I like a big performance, but I don't necessarily like over 10.5 rebounds. I mean, he has been at double digits in the boards in every game this season, but he's only cracked 10.5 once, and that was in his last game. I'm expecting him to do what he's done all series, which is just fill the stat sheet, but I don't expect like a really gaudy total in any one particular category.
Okay, Matt. Well, Klay Thompson hit just one three-pointer in Game 3. So are you in for plus 105 for over 3.5 threes tonight?
I'm buying it. If you look at his numbers since Durant left that game against the Rockets, he's had 10 3-point attempts, 13, 9, 8, and then 5 in his last game. 5 seems like a bit of an outlier. I would expect him to be back closer to that 9-10 range tonight. And then we only need him to do what he's done his whole career, which is shoot roughly 40% from behind the arc. So we know that Klay also tends to show up in these, closeout elimination type games. So I'm expecting him to definitely right the ship tonight.
Karin, over, under here?
Over. My two favorite players in the playoffs every year are always untucked jersey Kyrie Irving and Game 6 Klay Thompson. And since this isn't going to 6 games, Game 6 Klay has to show up in Game 4 so he can send Portland home. So I'm definitely taking over on Klay. Like, this is the easy one.
Showdown picks are coming up later in the show, so hang tight, please, both of you.
But right now, you're being treated to some Pat Mayo on your screens.
45, we'll do the middle range here. Kokrak leads it off. I'm thinking about betting Kokrak, to tell you the truth. 45-1. He was striking the ball immaculately last week, too. He finished inside the top 25 again.
He is doing, statistically, it seems like nothing has changed there for about 6-7 weeks.
Does it feel like he's due? Like he's just, like this is what happened to Kisner. Kisner had that great year. So many close calls. Then he comes to Colonial and breaks through.
I want to make
And we saw it with Henley that year in Houston. We saw it with Chappell that year
How
in
close
Houston.
have the calls been, though? The game has been good, but I feel like there was one tournament where it was like
where he was
actual...
close. I feel like he's just been in it every single week. He was 23rd at the PGA. He was bad at the Wells Fargo. He was 69th, but still make the case. He made 21 cuts in a row. He was 16th at the Heritage, and he made that Sunday run, remember? And then
So
he
that
gave it
was
all
the
back.
one then,
no,
I think.
he was second at Valspar.
Okay, so that was the one that he was really
He was in. But 9th at Honda, 10th at API. Like, he's just been lingering around. He's been in it. He just needs to not have that bad 9-hole stretch, and he's there. And when I went and looked at like the advanced metrics of where people gain at this course, like it's a very easily scrambling course. The greens are tiny, but up and down game really doesn't mean anything here. Like it's almost like zero.
So can I be honest?
Sure.
What you just said makes me want to bet Griot.
Well, Griot's played well at this course. What's Griot?
50.
50? I have 2 other guys from down that I'm kind of
The
interested in.
scramble, like you're telling me when you say small greens and scrambling's irrelevant, kind of works. You mentioned.
I mean,
course,
you do need to get it up and down. It just seems to be easier here than most other places. I'm really thinking.
He had a really good day yesterday, didn't he? I think he
Kokrak?
went off early. Griot?
I mean, he made the cut for Paul, but Sergio could not. But I think I think he was 6 over after the round 1. He came 23rd. He had a really good week.
Yeah, Griot 50-1. I think I want to be a part of that.
I might be able to get into that too. If we're just gonna fade everyone at the top end, like I'm down to dial back some of how much money I'm putting into this event and take some of the longer shot dudes.
What about
The next chance for you to win money on golf comes this weekend with the Charles Schwab Championship. And here to give you tips on how to win said money is DK Live's Jeff Ulrich and Reed Fowler. Not that like you and I need it, because in our video team competition.
In the internal game that's part of the employees pool, we came in first and second.
Yeah. Wow. Yes, we did.
To
Yeah,
be
for
clear,
the PGA Championship last weekend.
Emerson came in first. People do care, though. They do care.
Yep.
No, they
Okay.
care.
No, stop. doing
Okay,
that.
so this means, of course, it's time for PGA for better or worse. So
Yes.
should these golfers' opening odds be better or worse? Okay, guys? Jeff, Justin Rose is at plus 1,000. He did win last year, so he's got the best odds. Should they be better or worse?
Wow, I mean, congrats on all the success, first of all, guys.
Thank
Big
you.
accomplishment.
Listen, I am $18 richer tonight.
I mean, I'm going to take a little bit of time out to talk about Justin Rose, who made like 1.2, 1.3 million at this tournament last year. Coming
change.
off a decent little PGA championship performance. Rose has been kind of hit or miss all year, but I mean, if you're looking at this event just objectively, I think his odds pretty much make sense. I'm not saying he's someone I necessarily want to bet this week or I would necessarily recommend, but I mean, his odds at plus 1,000 in a weaker field makes sense. I mean, he absolutely torched this course last year. He led the field in strokes gain approach here. Had a pretty good putting week too. Now he's not coming in with quite the best form, but I mean, his caddy was on Twitter earlier today saying his guy was hitting the irons pretty damn solid last week. So I think plus 1,000 is pretty fair for Justin Rose. If you like him, it's not that bad a price, but not for me this week.
Reed, how do you feel about this?
Yeah, first to clear the air here, Emerson did not win. It's all fake news with Lotzia
What
when
are
we
you even
played
talking
golf.
What are you
But
referring
even
to? He
more,
did
even
win the-
more. Justin Rose, this is what we're talking about, not your guys'
Thank you.
$18 victory on that challenge. It's Justin Rose at plus 1,000. Look, Jeff's right. When you get these odds, even though he is one of the best players in the world, you see John Rahm there as well at plus 1,000. That's really hard to take. Even though he did gain 18 strokes total last year at this tournament, he absolutely torched it, like Jeff mentioned. But when you look at the conditions, and it's going to be really windy come Thursday through Sunday, and this is really the course's defense here, even though it is tree lined on the fairways, Justin Rose doesn't rank out the best for me. In terms of those two guys, if you look at Rahm and Rose, which are two question marks right now, especially with their approach over the last 24 rounds, 36, just this season, their irons haven't been as elite as they have been in the past. John Rahm actually ranks out a little bit better in my model when it comes to that. But I can't stress this enough, that plus 1,000 is way too short.
Hey, Reed, Jordan Spieth looking pretty good at the PGA Championship. Opening odds this week set at plus 1,400. Good for fourth best. For better or worse here, buddy?
No, this is gross. They should be better than this, so higher for Emerson, who doesn't really get the concept of numbers and betting. Look, it needs to be better, so it needs to be higher in this case. You look at Jordan Spieth, yes, he's played well here before. Yes, he comes from this area in terms of where he played college, not necessarily here specifically, but when you look at this tournament, he plays really well. If you look at last week, I mean, he gained close to 10 strokes or just over 10 strokes putting over that entire tournament. He's lost strokes approach 4 out of the last 5 tournaments, and that's really what you need here. If you just look at all of it, good drives, opportunities gained, approach, all of the things that you need at this course, he does not rank out well over the last 24 rounds. It really is a rubber band effect of what happened, where we saw him finally do well and get a better than a top 20 finish over the last year. But at this number, it's way too short, so it should be better. It should be better than this.
Jeff, I'm going to ad-lib right now and ask you a question that is not on the prompter.
Oh, my God.
How do you feel about Jordan Spieth's odds this week? Whew, I did it, Reed.
I don't really want to, but I guess I'm going to make a case for Jordan Spieth being okay at these odds. And I know what he did ball striking last week. I know it wasn't that impressive. I know most of his top 3 finish came from his putter. I'm well aware. But the thing about Jordan Spieth is he's been very, very course specific over his career. And I don't think some people realize this enough. But John Deere Classic, Colonial, Travelers, Pebble Beach, these are all shorter courses where you don't necessarily have to be a beast off the tee. You need a good short game to get up and down from the sand, and you need to hit your approaches fairly good. And that's what Jordan Spieth can do on Colonial. It's not Bethpage Black. He's not going to have the same kind of ball striking because it's not the most elite field. Those numbers will come up just by the rank of the field here naturally. And then you add in the fact that he's coming in confident on a course. He's absolutely dominated. He's gone win second here. I think he was T32 last year, but that's over the last 4 years. I mean, he's been so consistent at this course. I think you have to give him a little bit of credit here. It's a guy who's won it multiple times on tour. Like I said, all at similar type venues. It's just a course thing. It's just a field thing. These odds are actually pretty accurate for Jordan Spieth.
All right, Tony Finau at plus 3,300. Jeff, it's Reed's boy. Please be kind.
Yeah, well, I'm bringing out the blowtorch for this one. I mean,
Oh yeah,
what are you going to bet Tony Finau on a tree-lined course where you actually have to hit the fairway and you can't just bomb it everywhere and bomb and gouge? This is terrible. This is a guy who's won once over his career since 2017 at the Puerto Rico Open, which had a worse field than the one we're going to see this week. And you want 33-1? No. Look, I don't know how long it's going to take Tony Finau to win another tournament. And it's nothing against him. He's a fantastic player. He just doesn't quite have the sharpness on the greens and short game and the consistency to get it done yet. It'll come eventually, but it's not going to come this week at Colonial. This is not the venue you want Tony Finau at, in my opinion. You want it on a tougher venue where you need that length off the tee. This is not it. I do not like these odds for Tony Finau.
Oh my God, Reed, do you
Are
care
you
to
okay?
respond?
No, I'm not
Are you okay?
I'm not okay at all. Tony Finau, plus 3,300. I get it. He's always at this number because of the name value. And yes, right, he hasn't won since the Puerto Rico Open. But with Tony Finau, you kind of have it one of two ways, right? You either take that Jordan Spieth route or the Kevin Kisner route where you hit the approaches really well and your short game is obviously better than half or three-quarters of the field, or you take the John Rahm, the Tony Finau approach, the Gary Woodland approach, where you bomb it out there as far as you can, and even though you might be in the rough or you have a shorter distance, you can still wedge it through there. Like the most approach or the approach shot or the approach distance that showed most at this course last year was about 150 to 175. If Finau can get it out there 300 plus yards, which is not necessarily what you need, he's going to come in with those wedges. So I get it. He doesn't hit it in the fairway. But when you look at his odds, plus 3,300, I think they're right there because they've always been there over this season. If you're looking at other guys, Paul Casey at plus 2,200 is great. Kokrak at plus 4,000 is a little bit better in my opinion. But on DraftKings, I don't mind playing Tony Finau at all, especially if what people are going to be thinking is kind of what Jeff was saying, is that you don't need the distance, and that's been the narrative at this course for the last 3 or 4 years. So I don't mind it. Odds are a little too short, but it's my boy.
Reed could hardly contain himself earlier in the day when he started receiving tweets from our loyal viewers about Tony Finau for this week's tournament. So that was a good 2 minutes.
Dylan,
there,
shout out to Dylan.
Don't look at him.
Sorry, don't look at him. All right, finally, we've got Zach Johnson plus 6,600. This guy's a two-time champ. Should he have better odds, though? Go ahead, Reed.
Yeah, I think so. I really like Zach Johnson in this spot. I mean, plus 6,600 is a little short for him. And again, at that number, it's not really that short, but what he's been able to do this season doesn't really garner that. It's really the course history, to Jeff's point, and that's really kind of what led me off Jordan Spieth at plus 1,400, because I'd rather get a guy who's in similar value or a similar style of play with better value at Zach Johnson. He's done well here, obviously, when you look at his course history. And we're getting back on bent grass greens. Over the last 2 tournaments, which have not been bent, his putting has been atrocious. You want the guys who can really hit their irons well, who can keep it in the course, and can have a good strategy coming into this tournament, a guy like Zach Johnson, who's won at these strategic type tournaments. And so even if that wind goes to a windy condition or it gets up there in gusts, which it should be over Thursday through Sunday, Zach Johnson is a solid play at 6,600.
Is he a solid play in your opinion, Jeff?
No. Who wants to bet Zach Johnson this week? When is the last time Zach Johnson won a golf tournament? 2015. That's actually 4 years ago. I can't believe it's 4 years since 2015. But like, he's 43 years old now. This isn't old Zach Johnson where he used to just come in and at least be able to get it out there a little bit and pin those wedges and actually be able to putt. He can't putt anymore. And when a guy like Zach Johnson can't putt, it's not good. And I'm expecting him to just turn it around. No, I don't think so. Look, at least we saw the turnaround from Jordan Spieth, and we got Spieth at 25 years old. He's still young. He's still going to go through those ebbs and flows. There's only one way Zach Johnson is headed right now, and it's kind of in a negative direction. It's nothing against him. He's been a great player, but you can't expect these elite performances. I need much more than plus 6,600 personally to take on Zach Johnson. This field it's not the greatest, but there's still a lot of depth at the top, and I don't think these are good enough odds.
Some hard eye rolling over here.
Over where? Good stuff, you two. Please take a quick break. Emphasis on the quick, though, of course, because you'll be back to talk football right after this.
And this is Adam Kaufman talking with Mike Francesa about what a mess New York football is.
Adam Kaufman with Mike Francesa, host of Mike's on WFAN in New York. And let's start in your neck of the woods because your GM, Mike McCagden, I can't even get it out with a straight face, Mike, because they let him spend well over $100 million in free agency, ran the team's draft after that, and then they can him. It's so Jets it hurts, to be perfectly honest. How do they continue to screw up the order of operations so badly year after year?
You know, they had almost solidified things the last couple of years, and the Giants have been so bad that the Jets were actually getting some newfound credibility in the city for the first time in a long time compared to the football Giants. And then they go and do this, which was absolutely ridiculous, to keep him and then to send him packing because they had a power struggle. After you allow him to go out and spend all that money, and then you keep a coach here who's got a questionable record, who you now give complete authority to, and who can't wait to show that authority, makes a trade the first day, is going to get to hire the general manager, and has already basically sent out messages that he doesn't like the job that was done, nor the players brought in with all the money that was just spent. Utterly one of the most ridiculous, dysfunctional actions I've ever seen a team take.
Well, and this is backwards. It's what I said before, the order of operations. Your head coach doesn't hire your GM. That's not how it works, because if Gase screws up, who fires him?
Hey, the whole thing is so messed up. If you didn't want to keep McKagan, then you should have got rid of him and started a search over for both jobs. Instead, you let McKagan bring in a coach. And McKagan knew of Gaze's tendencies. Everyone knew Gaze was an alpha male. Everyone knew Gaze fought with everybody in Miami, including the owner, that Gaze is his way or the highway. And Gaze saw an easy pigeon in McKagan. McKagan, I know him very well. I don't know Gaze well, but I know McKagan very well. McKagan is a soft-spoken guy, doesn't believe in backstabbing, doesn't play the real inside street fighting game. And you know what? Gaze saw him as a pigeon, put a target on him, and just killed him. And that's exactly what happened.
To your point, I mean, the reports out of Miami when Adam Gase lost his job were that he didn't get along with people. We talked about it well at the time. So quickly rears its ugly head in New York. Was he the right hire ultimately, or is this just a sign of things to come and it's going to get a whole lot worse?
Listen, I didn't think the hire was a good hire or a bad hire. I thought it was kind of middle of the road. The guy has shown some ability as a coach, but he knew, McKagan knew of all the problems with Gaze. I know he did because we talked about it. As a matter of fact, I had friends in the Dolphin organization, and they told me all the horror stories about Gaze, and I relayed those to McKagan. He knew them. And I know the guys he went after. He went after Bruce Arians, who had no interest in the job because he didn't want to live in New York, and he didn't want to come in after Todd Bowles, who's like his son. So that was out. He was interested in the Packer coach, but McCarthy was killed by the Packer organization so badly. Mm-hmm. They destroyed his candidacy before it started because they said such terrible things about him. So that was out. And then it came down to Gaze, and Gaze comes in, answers not to McKagan, answers to the owner, who has no idea about anything. And Chris Johnson's easily swayed. Gaze saw that. He also saw that McKagan didn't fight back. And he said, this is almost too easy, and decided to destroy him, and he did.
You brought up the issues with players, and one of them apparently is Adam Gase didn't want Le'Veon Bell, at least not at what the team paid him. Maybe the player, all right, but not at that salary. Bell tweeted that he's just focused on winning, doesn't care about being liked. Is this already a disaster?
Total. Absolutely total. He didn't want Bell, okay, and then he accepted him at the right price. He didn't want a back that was going to be a feature player, which I happen to agree with. So I was against the signing of Bell. He also thought Mosley got too much money. So you're going to have your defensive leader. You're going to have your offensive leader. Plus what it does is it shifts all the emphasis away from where it should be on the second-year quarterback. Last year, the number one person in this organization was Sam Darnold. He's now number 3. He's behind Gaze. He's behind Bell. And now it's Sam. It's not what Sam wants. It's not what Sam needs. It's now going to be a fight for a supremacy between Gaze and Bell, which Gaze will win because he can keep Bell under control because A, he hasn't been here. He hasn't won here. He has no credibility here. Plus, the coach can decide how much he plays and how much he's featured. So that is a game Bell can't win. Bell can take him down, but he can't win. And I think it'll be a fight to the death. And I wouldn't be surprised just 6 games in, and he'll be walking inside telling people they have to trade Bell.
Good God, we've missed you two. DK Live's Jeff Warwick and Reed Fowler back on your screens.
And it's time for NFL Spin Move, putting a season-long fantasy spin on top NFL stories. So in case you just haven't been paying attention,
What?
the draft is behind us. You know that, right? And there has been, for good reason, a lot of attention on the incoming class of rookie QBs, but there are 5 sophomore quarterbacks who could be or will be in starting slots this season. So Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, and Josh Rosen. Which one of these guys is in the best spot for 2019, Jeff? Is it Baker Mayfield?
Did someone from Game of Thrones write Emerson's script today? I don't. This is
Yeah, he did.
downhill.
Yeah, that was
Let's try
him.
and save things here. I mean, let's try and save things here as we go forward. I mean, the obvious. Look, I'm just the obvious. It's so obvious that the answer is Baker Mayfield. I'm not even going to talk about Baker Mayfield. I'm going to let Reed talk about Baker Mayfield. Let's look at the other guys. We got Josh Rosen, Sam Darnold. I'm crossing off my list. There's no upside to be had there. So it really comes down to Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson behind Baker Mayfield. These are 2 very similar quarterbacks and actually very interesting spots. Both are going to be run heavy, in my opinion. I would give the edge to Josh Allen. A lot of people are expecting Lamar Jackson maybe to take a leap forward as a passer this year. And if you look back at his college career, I don't think that's going to happen. There's nothing that tells me that Lamar Jackson is suddenly going to become a proficient passer. He doesn't have the arm strength to throw downfield. Now, Josh Allen, on the other hand, he may be inaccurate, but he does have that deep ball, and we saw him clicking with it more towards the end of the year. Had a couple multi-touchdown games, was averaging, over 200 yards, which is kind of a big accomplishment considering where he started the year. The Bills' backfield sucks. He's going to run the ball a lot. He 8 rushing touchdowns last year. I think you're still going to see a little bit more upside with Josh Allen. So my non-Baker Mayfield answer is Josh Allen for the most upside.
Reed, you want to talk about Baker Mayfield?
No. Who's outside of Smokey Brown in Buffalo? Who are the receivers there, Jeff?
That's what I'm saying, though. It doesn't matter because he's going to run a ton and he's just going to throw deep balls.
Yeah.
He doesn't need a bunch of receivers. He's not going to throw. There's not going to be a 90 reception receiver on Buffalo. There's going to be Josh Allen running the ball, the odd deep ball, and that's where you can get your fantasy points.
Well, Jeff's wrong again. Yes, Baker Mayfield, he has the best floor out of all of these guys, right? Because we saw it last year, the 26, 25 touchdowns from a rookie quarterback. One of the best we've seen. But Jeff's wrong. I like Lamar Jackson here, even with Baker Mayfield in it. And look, when you take Jeff's answer and you kind of put, logic behind it, Lamar Jackson is just a better athlete than Josh Allen. They're not the same. Just because they run similarly, they're not the same type of quarterback. If you look at Lamar Jackson, just his numbers, which Jeff didn't mention at all, 18.5 fantasy points as a floor when he started. So since week 7 or 8 from when he got that starting nod, he had 18 as a floor. When you look at just that production and what he's been able to do with essentially no receivers and a bevy of people in the backfield in Baltimore, I really like Lamar Jackson. Look, if you just average that out for the entire season, he would have done better than Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, and all of these guys if he had a full season just based on his numbers alone. Yes, when we go back to 2018 in that rookie class, I thought Lamar Jackson did have the best footwork. He was better. He's a better passer in a lot of ways, but just didn't get that opportunity in Baltimore. So when you look at this year now, when he has a full year of the offseason to prep, when he has a full year as a starting quarterback in Baltimore, give me that floor all day long, Lamar Jackson, not Josh Allen.
Look, just in case you're actually thinking about drafting Lamar Jackson this year, get ready to get vultured because they have Mark Ingram behind him now, Gus Edwards, Kenneth Dixon. Who does Josh Allen have behind him? The trio from the retirement home down the street. Okay, that's my last thing. That's all I'll say.
All right, well, one of the biggest storylines of the season in Dallas may not be on the field, as the Cowboys have started negotiations to re-sign both Dak Prescott and Amari Cooper, these 2 showing flashes of brilliance last year. How confident are you, Reed, that they will be a fantasy force this campaign?
Yeah, Amari Cooper had, 2 or 3 games where he just broke out, 200-plus yards.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
I
highest
remember
fantasy point
food.
receiver. Yeah, absolutely. You can expect more of the same. If you look at Dak Prescott, he finished as quarterback 10. And when you just look over the past 3 years, that's really where he's finished, right around that quarterback 10, quarterback 15, in that QB1 slot on a 14 team if you're doing that in terms of redraft fantasy. I really like it. Cooper obviously does give you that slot receiver, that big body slot receiver, where now he's got, again, a full offseason. I really like how they can work together in a full offseason. You have Jason Witten still there, right, or coming back, right? That's going to open up a lot. You still have Zeke there as well. If you just look at from weeks 9 to 17, Dak Prescott, again, outperform some of these top quarterbacks that we've seen, the Drew Breeses, the Andrew Lucks, and it was fantastic. He was drafted as QB 22 last year and finished as QB 10. So I really like their outlook. You can't hone in on Cooper. You can't double him anymore. Jason Witten's coming back, and you still have Zeke, so I like it.
Jason Witten. That's right. I forgot about that. Jeff, what do you think about this duo?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much Jason Witten's going to affect things just because we don't really know what to expect. He's like, what, like 45? I don't know. Anyways, I do think that like another year of Amari Cooper, I agree with Reed in the fact that I think it helps Dak more than Amari. And I'm expecting about similar performance from Amari Cooper. He averaged about 9 targets a game, six receptions, but it was very hit or miss. It was kind of like either he hit that big home run touchdown or he didn't. It was more muted. And I think you're going to see a solid season, but I do think there's going to be lots of ebbs and flows where he goes a couple games, he gets like 40 yards, no touchdowns, and everyone's down on him. And then it's boom, he gets a good matchup, breaks one, and that's it. But I think Dak Prescott, QB 10 last year, like Reed mentioned, and that's an interesting stat because Dak runs a bit. I mean, he'll rush for a couple touchdowns. And when he does connect with Amari Cooper, you'll get big games from him. So I think Dak Prescott could be like the more value option of these two. I think Amari Cooper, you're going to get very similar production to what we saw last year with Dallas.
All right, guys, Matt Breida made a name for himself this season, emerging as a viable fantasy option in San Fran. But with the return of Jerick McKinnon and the signing of Tevin Coleman, one of Jeff's all-time favorite players, do you avoid the 49ers backfield at all costs come fantasy draft time, Jeff?
I mean, I just picked Tevin Coleman like every week last year for my players to lock. I mean,
yeah, we know.
I guess he turned into one of my favorite players because I kept having to talk about him. But look, all due respect to Matt Breida, he just loses out in a talent contest here. I mean, Tevin Coleman is one of the more complete backs, very good pass catcher. He definitely fits like an every down profile, and he's just more explosive and stronger than Matt Breida. Then you have Jerick McKinnon, who's basically a physical freak, one of the better pass receivers outside of the backfield. More spark, although he's coming off an ACL injury. I just don't see much there in Matt Breida. And I think if you are looking at this backfield, I think if you do draft Tevin Coleman, I think obviously it's a bit of a risk considering that there's 3 guys in the mix, but McKinnon's coming off the ACL. Tevin Coleman's much more of an every down player than Matt Breida. That's the guy who's got the possibility of really turning into a fantasy stud there in this backfield, in my opinion. It's Coleman.
Reed.
I mean, how many times do we need to give Tevin Coleman the chance to be a 3-down back? And
he's never had the chance, Reed. That's the whole thing.
Devontae Freeman's been hurt his entire career. I mean, come on. Like, even with Shanahan back in 2016, yes, Coleman saw the top 20 in rush yards per attempt. But give me McKinnon. You just mentioned it, Jeff. He's a physical freak. We didn't see him last year. And when you're looking at value, and yes, Tevin Coleman is a talented player. Yes, he was there with Shanahan in Atlanta, so there's some familiarity with that. But where do you have to draft a guy like Tevin Coleman to really reap some value? I mean, there's other guys out there in other spots that I would like. And if you look at McKinnon, you mentioned it, ACL tear. People are going to be scared of him. He was going extremely high last year in ADP around, round 3 or 4? And then obviously that freak accident happened before the season started. When you look at Devontae Freeman, when he was with Shanahan in 2015, he was a top 5 running back when you look at rush yards per attempt. Jerick McKinnon is that guy. Shanahan wanted him as his running back. So give me McKinnon in that. I get the Tevin Coleman allure, but we've seen it before. We haven't seen it yet with McKinnon, and I get it. That can give you some pause that we haven't seen what McKinnon can do in a every down back. We saw it a little bit in Minnesota, but not yet with Shanahan. Give me McKinnon in that spot.
All right, guys, that's all the time we have for now. Adios, you two. Reed, enjoy the Flock of Seagulls concert tonight with your girlfriend. We are diving into the DK Sportsbook, looking at MLB odds next.
Happy Monday, Brendan Glasheen here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Magic Johnson's been on a tweeting spree since leaving the Lakers. Now he's talking. The legend joined ESPN's First Take and opened up about his abnormal departure a month and a half ago. Johnson said it was general manager Rob Pelinka who was backstabbing him and led to his decision to step down. Here's Magic. I start hearing, Magic, you are not working hard enough. Magic's not in the office. People around the Lakers office were telling me Rob was saying things, Rob Pelinka, and I didn't like those things being said behind my back, that I wasn't in the office enough. Johnson also mentioned he wanted to fire Luke Walton. He didn't regret leaving LeBron James in the dark, and he said too many voices were in the decision-making process. Okay, so Magic felt he didn't have control of the operation. If that's the case, sure, step down. But No one can say he did it the right way. The presentation is what sticks with us. It's not about wanting to dip, it's his lack of professionalism and communication in the approach. That was the issue. So not sure name dropping on national TV helps Magic's cause. Hey, I know, just name drop on Twitter. That always goes well.
One more time for our
One more
baseball
time.
panel tonight. You want to sing the rest of this?
Sorry, no, go ahead.
All right. It's even better than the first time as well that you saw them tonight because Julian is gone and James McCool is here along with Pierce and Greg.
All right.
choice.
Yeah, great
you.
choice,
Thank
guys.
you very much. That was
so
all mine.
let's chase or fade DK Sportsbook odds on tonight's MLB slate. So the Mariners and Rangers coming in with an over-under of 11, which is the highest on the slate. Do you like the over -112 or the under -109 here, James?
I think we're going to have to take the under on this. I don't really respect the Mariners right now. They've been really cold over the last month, and they go up against Mike Minor, who is much better at handling lefties than he is righties. A lot of the power comes from these left-handed bats. I do think that the Rangers can absolutely get to Mike Leake. I think they're going to put up a couple of home runs. Joey Gallo's going yard, Hunter Pence is going yard, but I just don't see them really passing that total unless the Rangers do it by themselves because I don't think the Mariners can get there.
Pierce, the over or the under?
Well, I'll chase. You got Mike Leake. You got a bad Mariners bullpen. So, yeah, they can probably get there on their own. But Mike Minor's had a good year this year, but I see some Mariners that definitely can hit left-handed pitching. You got 6 guys above a 350 WOBA in a ballpark that's going to favor some runs. They'll be close, but I say it goes over.
Greg.
Yeah, I'll break the tie. I'm going to agree with James here. This is a fade for me. I think it goes under. It's just such a big disrespect to Mike Minor, who I do think he's going to regress a little bit this year, but he's been so good this season, and he's been consistently good. Like, it's not like he's getting blown up really ever. His last 8 starts, he's given up more than 2 runs just twice. So I do agree with what Pierce said, where I think it's a good spot for the Rangers. I said I like Joey Gallo earlier, but if this game goes over, it's going to have to be solely because the Rangers put up a ton of runs, and I just don't think it's all that likely because the total is so high.
Pierce, Darvish with a season-high 11 strikeouts in his last outing. Do you like him at plus 105 to cover 6.5 Ks as the Cubs host the Phillies?
I do not like him. And but there's a reason they bring me on here, and it's for the umpire stats.
Yes,
Vic
that is true. Go
Carapazza
ahead.
behind the plate 3 games this year. He's allowing the most runs per game, 4th most walks per game. That's not good for Darvish, who's giving up 7 walks per 9 innings, which is pretty bad. He's falling behind in the count, which means he's leaning on his fastball. People are crushing it, 19% barrel rate on his fastball. So he's going to walk guys. He's going to throw fastballs that are getting crushed. That leads to runs. I don't think he's going to stick around long enough to get 6.5 strikeouts.
It's taken us 1 week since the relaunch of our show to get umpire stats in there.
Oh, yes!
Thank you, Pierce. It is great to have you back. Greg, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm going to chase this one. Not going to mention anything with the umpire here. But if we look at Darvish this year, he's definitely not what he used to be. He's not an elite pitcher anymore. The walks have been a huge issue for him. But he's still a really good strikeout pitcher. He strikes out 11.79 hitters per 9 innings. The walks are an issue. I don't think he's a particularly good DFS play for his price. But for the odds also, plus odds for him to go over 6.5, he has at least 7 strikeouts in 5 of his last 6 starts. He's going to walk people. He's going to give up hits. But he's going to get strikeouts too. That's what he does.
James, plus 105 to go over 6.5 Ks. You on it?
Yeah, I'll go over on that. I'm going to agree with Greg on this, and Pierce can be the odd man out again. I don't really respect the Phillies right now. They're kind of a weak offense, and as much as Darvish has been bad this year, he's really picked it up lately. He does have a 53.21 2-strikeout percentage or 2-strike percentage in his counts, and he has 13.68 K per 9 over the last month, going up against Phillies team that has, Bryce Harper leads his division in strikeouts. So I think that going up against Bryce Harper a couple times is at least 2 strikeouts, and he can get some towards the back of the order. I'll take the over on that.
All right, Yankees are favorites on the road in Baltimore, and they also have a very high 9.5 total. So what do you think of the game parlay of Yankees money line and the under at plus 180, James?
Yeah, the Yankees are going to win this game, but it's going over that total. I think Andrew Kashner is probably one of the worst pitchers in baseball right now, and he's really, really struggled against right-handers this year. He started throwing his changeup a lot more than his 2-seamer, and that's really caused a lot of hard contact against righties. And this Yankees lineup is essentially all righties that can hit home runs off of anyone. So when you have somebody like Gary Sanchez, Luke Voigt, Aaron Hicks is back. So I think that the Yankees are going to crush him, and the bullpen behind the Orioles is just awful. So I think they can break this over themselves.
Pierce, chase or fade that parlay?
Yeah, I'm on the same place. Yankees are going to win. This game's going to go over. Cashner, he's looked better than he should have the last couple games, but that's because he's got a micro BABIP under 200 in those games, and his left on base percentage was 100% and 87% in those games. So he's definitely walking a fine line, which I imagine is going to go the other way soon. Baltimore's bullpen, you can't trust it. J.A. Happ, old man, getting older every year. The 36-year-old's got a 91-mile-per-hour fastball they throw 70% of the time. I can't see that working out either. This thing's going over.
Greg, where are you going?
Yeah, fade for me also. Cashner's a year older this season. J.A. Happ's a year older this season. It's just this crazy trend going on in baseball right now. Like these guys said, Cashner I don't think is particularly good. Happ has not pitched well this year either. I think the Yankees win, but I think both teams should be able to score runs. Maybe the Orioles as a contrarian stack in GPPs make a little bit of sense just because Happ has struggled so much this year. But yeah, I think too many runs scored in this game for me to pick an under.
Last one, dudes. Put on your DFS caps here. Who is your slate-approved pick on this slate tonight? Pierce.
I'm going to stick with Chalk and go with Corbin.
Greg. Sorry. Couldn't hear you.
I'm going to go with Josh Reddick at 4,200. He's hit the ball really well recently, and the Astros have moved him from the bottom of the lineup to actually hitting leadoff tonight. Part of it due because George Springer's out with an injury. Look at Reddick really hitting the ball much better after early season struggles. 10-plus DK points, 4 of his last 5 games. So new lineup spot, I think it's good for his production.
James, bring us home.
I'll give you 2. The first one's going to be Luke Weaver up against the Padres, who have the highest strikeout rate on the slate. And then I'll give you Anthony Rendon, who's going to hit a home run and pass 20 fantasy points on the night.
Can we stamp him again? That was 2. Can we stamp him again? No?
Yeah! All right.
Wonderful.
See you guys later. Karin Phillips and Matt LaMarca will return with their Golden State Portland Showdown picks after this.
What's up? I'm Tara Lenizek in on this Monday with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Ryan Saunders spent half the 2018-2019 NBA season as an interim head coach in Minnesota, but now he will shed the interim tag. The Timberwolves have signed him to a multi-year contract, making him the youngest head coach in the NBA at 33 years old. Saunders made a strong impression on ownership after taking over for the fired Tom Thibodeau on January 6th. His record wasn't overly impressive. Minnesota went 17-25 over the final 42 games of the season, but what really stood out was how the All-Star center Karl Anthony Towns flourished under him. After the All-Star break, Towns' usage rating increased from 26% to over 30%. He averaged 28 points, 13 rebounds, and just under 4 assists. Towns backed Saunders multiple times throughout the season, specifically shouting out how Saunders was able to change the team's culture. Ryan has been with the T-Wolves since 2014 when he worked under his late father Flip, and now he's officially got the role his father held on 2 separate occasions.
To those of you who made it, congratulations. This is the last block of the show, but let's please take a moment to remember those no longer with us.
Senior columnist of the Shadow League, Karin Phillips, is with us, and the Action Network's Matt LaMarca sticking around to help us with showdown picks for tonight's Game 4 between the Warriors and Blazers. Ooh, Game 4.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, Game 4.
Yep. Maddie, who is your captain pick for this one?
So, yeah, I really think there are only 2 guys that should be on your radar here, and that's Steph Curry or Draymond Green. They are the 2 most expensive players, but I think that their upside is just considerably higher than everybody else's. Curry has, the big offensive upside. He's going to have, a huge usage rate. We already picked him to go over 32.5 points. So I think he is probably my favorite of the 2, but if your lineup fits better with Draymond, then I have no problem going with that as well. You know that he's going to give you contributions in every category across the board, including the defensive stats. He was the winning captain in the last showdown slate, so I have no problem using Draymond either.
Okay. Karin, who do you like in your captain spot?
Everything that Matt just said, but I'm going with Draymond on this one, going with a choice that's my heart and my head. I just see this guy at least 6, 7, 8, 9 times a day where he's going to get the rebound, push tempo, kick it to Steph or Clay on the wings. And then he's going to get a rebound and assist and also get some huge points off a pick and roll or some of those statement plays he always makes to get that team going. But also going with my heart on Draymond just because, Saginaw natives got to stick with each other. So They're going to get this done and over with tonight. So you can't lose with Draymond or Steph because, like Matt said, these are the only two choices you should really be considering. But he's taking Steph. I'm taking Draymond, but I don't think either of us are going to lose tonight with these choices.
Okay, so you've picked your captain, which means you've spent a good chunk of change. So
lots of money.
This is your ride or die. Your captain's your ride or die.
Yeah,
I said it.
yeah.
But who's a good player to pair with your captain? Who you going with, Karin? You might need to save some money here.
You guys know I'm like usually the cheap guy.
I know.
Oh, 100%. That's.
But
yeah.
listen, we're getting further in the playoffs.
Ooh.
This is why I saved money all year, so I can get a little flashy, which is why I'm going with CJ McCollum just because he's the guy on another side. Give this a little balance. And I also, like I said earlier in the show, I just think we're going to get a huge game out of CJ. I think this is the last night for the Portland Trail Blazers, but CJ's going to go down firing. So give me him to offset Draymond.
Matt, who you pairing here?
I'm
Emerson, did you
stacking
wanna-
all three of the Warriors. Give me Steph, Draymond, and Klay Thompson. I want all three of them in my lineup. We already talked about Steph and Dre. I think Klay has a big game and an elimination performance as well. And I think that there's enough value on the slate that you can fit those guys and maybe even CJ McCollum and still be able to build a good lineup.
All right, Matt, I want you to tell the people at home where to find value here.
Think long and hard about this.
Give us multiple options.
Yeah.
Okay, I could do that.
Yes.
Jordan Bell, 2,200. I like him a lot. He's real cheap. He's coming off over 20 DK points in his last game. And now Andre Iguodala is a little bit banged up. It wouldn't surprise me if they took it easier on him tonight, to try and make sure that he's ready to go for the finals. I also think you can look at Alfonso McKinney for the Warriors. And if you want somebody on the Blazers side, I will rock with Zach Collins. Sorry. He continues to take on a bigger and bigger role here for the Blazers. He's their best defensive big man by a pretty comfortable margin compared to Myers Leonard and Enes Kanter. And I think that they're going to need that defense at times tonight. So I think that between those three guys, you should be able to play virtually whoever else you want.
Okay, Karin, what's your strategy here? Give us some options for a value play.
I've got three guys too. The only one me and Matt share is Jordan Bell. Let's just be honest about Jordan Bell. Like, we had high hopes. A lot of people did for him coming into the season, and he didn't live up to them, especially the way he came out of Oregon. Kevon Looney kind of took that backup big man role with all the injuries they've had, and Bell got pushed down the rotation a little bit. But this has been an energy series, and Jordan Bell is an energy guy, and you can see that his confidence is gaining. So I can see him really putting up some nice numbers and being a good spark plug off the bench for Golden State, as they're going to need at least one or two bigs out there. But also give me Quinn Cook. I think that Steph is going to come out firing and rolling early to where he can get a longer break in the first half before they need him in the third and the fourth to shut this little Portland run they're probably going to go down on. So give me Quinn Cook. And also, lastly, I called the Steph Curry game in game 2 that somehow Portland that they blew. But I'm calling another Steph Curry game again. I think CJ and Steph are going to kind of lead the forces for Portland with Dame banged up, but it just won't be enough. But you got to think the little brother, this is the last game probably for the season, which I've been predicting all show. So he's got to come out guns blazing. He's at home. The whole family is there. Why not drop a nasty 20-something on your brother and then lose and then put on a Warriors jersey and support him in the next series? Because this is probably how it's going to go.
Hey, Karin, one more for you. Both you guys seem to think the Warriors are just going to finish this thing off. So who, in your opinion, do they match up better with? Is it going to be Milwaukee or Toronto?
They match up better with Toronto. If you're Warriors fans, that's who you want to see. But I believe we're going to get Golden State Milwaukee in the finals, which is why they need DeMarcus Cousins and or Kevin Durant back ASAP. Because I just don't know who guards Giannis, and just the way they've been rolling, I would not want to play Milwaukee right now.
Matt, what's your opinion on this?
My opinion is fear the deer.
Oh.
Milwaukee Bucks, 2019 NBA champions.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Hey, you had to be impressed with what Toronto did last night, though. 2 overtime? Yeah?
They went to double overtime when Every player on Milwaukee had an awful game. That's a very bad look if you're Toronto. Like, I know they won. Congratulations on the W. But it doesn't change how I feel about this series at all.
Okay.
I'm not gonna act like I watched that game last night because Game of Thrones was on, and so
Yeah.
Let's
be real.
I'm
Let's
just
be
gonna
real.
speak
Don't
for
even-
America here. Nobody watched the end of that game.
Yeah.
Don't even get us started with Game of Thrones.
I can't talk about Game of Thrones, guys.
I
But
loved it.
oh my God, we'll talk
Ew,
about this off
gross,
the air.
dude.
Guys, thank you for joining us. Thanks for watching. We're back here at 6 o'clock tomorrow night, and we'll be joined by Indians manager Terry Francona. Ooh.
# exclusive.